There are times in life when we find ourselves asking the universe to have our backs. If you are tuning in right now, there is a very good chance that our prayers have everything to do with our beloved pups, kitties, bunnies, guinea pigs, hamsters, and any other wild or domesticated creature who has found their way into our hearts. Well, today's guest is the actual human of that manifestation in veterinarian form. To myself and her countless clients at the Malibu Coast Animal Hospital, Dr. Lisa is the open-armed, unwavering lifeline who will do whatever it takes to help your baby while she's giving you straight up, no bullshit, realistic expectations. Dr. Lisa is there to hold your pet while she's holding your hand. Passion has guided her since she was a little girl, and there are so many hot topics she's passionate about these days. So excited to dive in. Dr. Lisa and Sweet Nissa, we are so honored to have you here today. Welcome to a podcast.
Thank you. My pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
So excited. Well, I have been a long time client at Malibu Coast with my personal dogs.
Correct.
So Dr. Lisa knows the whole clan. And every time I walk in, whether I'm able to get in to see you or not, if you see me out there waiting, there's always a hug. There's always okay, we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to take care of you. And you guys just have such a just huge clientele. How do you do that on a daily basis and not get totally compassion fatigued?
Well, I think a lot of it is just because we really, truly, it's probably so cliche, love what we're doing. I mean, like I said, that does sound cliche, but it is so true. I've been doing this for 25 years at Malibu Coast Animal Hospital. And actually, I started there in 1988 with another owner as a kid, as an assistant. And then I said, okay, time for me to quit messing around and go back to school. I went back to school and in 94, and then I came back in 98, and the rest is history. So I've been there ever since through different changes. I tell everybody I'm kind of grandfathered in, and when I go, just sprinkle my ashes in the parking lot, just because it's just been such a big part of my life, And I can't imagine myself doing anything else. It's just been, and it is emotionally exhausting, and sometimes you wish you could just take care of the pets. You forget you got to have that two-legged part to it too.
The humans,
the human part,
the problem.
and that's really what drains you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're wonderful. The hospital is great. My employer, Dr. Dean and Dr. Dana, they are incredible people. And I think one of the biggest thing is because we will not become a corporate hospital, and that's one of my newest hot topics. I think that unfortunately corporate medicine is changing the face of veterinary medicine, and it's very sad.
Can you tell us a little bit?
Well, you have corporations like Mars, who you associate with candy bars and things like that. They're buying up hospitals, and so many corporations that have nothing to do with veterinary medicine, any kind of medicine, because they know. And then what happens is they have what I like to call a cookbook formulation, where they, you go in and they have this, no matter what it is, they're doing the same thing. They're recommending the same diagnostics over and over, and it's not an individual type of plan. So it's really hard.
Does Mars know that it's their candy bars that are sending these dogs to the vet?
Yeah, right. So that's a big thing. I read somewhere, I can't remember, but I believe it was one in my journals that in 10 years we're going to be 100,000 veterinarians short because of burnout. We're still the #1 profession for suicide. And that's another thing people don't like to talk about, but it's true. And say, well, how? All day long you're just playing with puppies and kittens. Okay, well, there's a lot more to it than that. Yeah, wouldn't that? Can I have that practice? Yeah. Just tell me where that one is. And it's the burden of debt. When we get out, we have just as much financial debt with the student loans, $400,000 on up. We don't make the same money as humans. And so these are some big problems. And then the stress and the strain of, especially in these corporate hospitals, they don't have the money, a lot of times they have to euthanize these otherwise animals that could be healthy.
Yeah, I always wonder about that as a client of a vet. We are close with our vets because we see them a lot and we have a personal relationship, but I do notice that clients can be very difficult to work with. I've seen a lot of emotions, I've seen a lot of yelling, things like that. And with that, and knowing that the veterinary field is so emotionally difficult and draining, how did you choose to dedicate your life to it?
Well, there is an urban legend that I was 4 years old and I told my mommy I wanted to be a doggy doctor.
Oh.
And apparently it stuck. And back then, I actually used to go to veterinary hospitals. You could still, before we were so litigious, I could actually go and volunteer for a few hours a day, maybe once a week on a Saturday or something. So I've always had that ingrained in me. And I was always the kid that when someone, shot at a little bird with a BB or brought a little injured animal, I was always that house in the neighborhood where they'd bring that animal to me. So, it's just always kind of been there for me. Yeah.
What does volunteering at a veterinary clinic when you're 8 years old look like? What were you doing?
Mostly just standing around and petting the pets, trying to give them comfort, but I was always observing. You couldn't do a lot of holding or restraining or anything, but just being there in the room was always pretty cool. Yeah.
And if I can speak to that,
Yes.
just your energy. I mean, and I've been there for many different ones of my animals for all different reasons.
Yes.
Good things and bad things. But like I said, your energy is just unwavering. And somehow, even though I might not be getting the answers that I was hoping for, I know that the outcome, whatever it is the right thing. And, I'm going to be okay at the end because you're there to walk me through it and hold me through it and explain everything.
Yeah. And it's that communication, and being compassionate, I think I'm a very empathetic person. I'm also really sensitive. I've been told by friends who are gifted that I do have something about me.
What's your sign?
So I'm Aries. And so, I think I've turned that in. Remember, I have to be a detective.
Right.
Yeah.
My patients can't tell me, same thing. So I'm grown very intuitive, and I now can walk into a room and I can just feel whether the animal is just, especially at that end of lifetime, I feel it. It just absorbs me and it becomes so heavy. I'm like, we need to talk. I can really feel that. They really communicate with me. I don't want to sound all shishy and weird, but it's just something that's there now after developing this for all these years.
And how do you communicate that once you have received that message?
Most of the time people are kind of aware. They just really need someone they can trust to guide them through that. And I'll tell you, I've seen some pretty amazing things at these end of life times, and I definitely feel that that's the hardest thing. And for us, 13, 14, 15 years, it's never going to be enough. But to those little creatures, it's been an amazing lifetime. And so I try to construe that to the owners. This has been a beautiful, beautiful life. And when the pain's gone, you're going to remember that. This has been everything that they could hope to have. And how that moment when we help to transition, and to me it is a transition, at that moment, to me that's just as important as the entire time they've lived that life. Yeah. So I try to make that as beautiful and as peaceful as possible. I don't want them to have any anxiety, any pain, any nausea, anything. I want that left behind like baggage. So all they take with them is that love of their humans with them. And I feel like if you can transition like that, what a beautiful way to start your next journey.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So and I mean that with all my heart.
Okay, so now I am going to get a little hoo-ha after the transition.
Yes.
Can you speak to what you're feeling energetically in that room?
I release. A lot of the patients, I believe that animals are so more ready than we are to go. Like their bodies, they're just like, yeah, get me out of here. I want to go. I know there's that something else out there. I can't tell you where, what, or any of that, but there definitely is. And so I know that they're like relieved, and I just feel that sense, especially when some have waited a little bit too long, and they do too, though. Once they see the peaceful look on their baby's face, they're at, okay, thank you. It is a big release. And then the sadness, of course. Of course. And I say, that's okay. You can grieve. You're allowed to grieve. But, don't apologize. What a magnificent life your friend has had.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been through it a couple of times, so
yeah.
it just brings you right back.
I know. I know.
There are a few things that we want to talk to you specifically about coming from the rescue world that
Right.
we're in.
Right.
And one of the biggest hot topics that we are dealing with right now is these overcrowded shelters filled with animals that came from other animals who were not spayed and neutered, and especially pandemic babies type of thing. A lot of them are around 3 years old and were a result of a time where the world wasn't spay and neutering, and it's carried over till now.
Right.
Can you give us a little bit of your thoughts on that?
You really want to go there?
I want you to go there.
I would love to go
Well, I just find that I feel like so much ignorance, and I try to okay, I want to take it down to a level of a better communication, because I get angry, I get mad, because I see the other side of it. Just because I'm practicing in Malibu and the Palisades doesn't mean I don't see it. I do a lot of volunteer work. I'm involved with a group where we do spay and neuter clinics along the border towns of Mexico. And we average about 3,000 to 5,000 spays and neuters of cats and dogs down there with vaccines every year.
Amazing.
And we're actually going to be having a couple clinics in Bakersfield. So again, trying to get the awareness going, but I don't know what's going on and why people are thinking we don't need to spay and neuter our pets. They'll live longer. There's so much controversy. You're going to have scientific evidence on both planes, but in the end, I think infected uteruses, and I think that breast cancer, which are 100% preventable with spaying, and testicular cancers and urinary diseases, which are 100% preventable with neutering, is a good reason. Am I going to do anything I possibly can to enhance that life of my pet? Yes. And another thing is too, a lot of guys, they think with their own balls. Come on, let's be reasonable here. What's worse? You're taking these dogs, these male dogs, the intact male dogs, and you are basically, we're not letting them just run around and have sex. I know you're making it worse. You're taking you're like a 20-year-old young man, 18-year-old young man, and you're basically telling them, hey, you're never going to have sex, and we're going to watch you walk by all these females and screw you. How do you think that does them emotionally? So let's think of it from that point of view as well. They still have their testicles that they want to, anytime they want to bone, they want to jump on it. Exactly. And they can smell a female in heat in a 5-mile radius.
Wow.
Remember, dogs have a 500,000 times better scent of smell than we do. So you got that. So you're emotionally screwing your dog up that way. So, just for that part. And yes, I do like to, at least for the males, I'd like to get them to about a year, 18 months, if they're good, if they're well behaved, and if they start those what I like to call bad boy behaviors, humping, urinating in the house, male aggression towards other dogs or humans.
Red flag.
You're losing them, gone.
Yeah.
But I do want to try to get them a little bit older. Yeah. Females, I'm a little more reserved, because here's the thing, something people don't know. Every time a female dog goes in heat, there's a 17% chance of mammary gland tumors. Every time this female goes in heat. So by the time they're a year old, year and a half, they've had 2 to 3 heats. What's that? 50% chance of getting mammary gland tumors.
Oh my goodness. So do you recommend spaying before the first heat?
I like to do it about 6 to 9 months. Yeah, I'm pretty, our whole practice, we're all on that same level, because, that's what we believe. And they still, whether or not they're spayed or neutered, there's still 1 in 4 chance of a dog getting cancer. It's regardless. That's what the bottom line is, you know,
Yes.
unfortunately. So I don't feel that I've done research reading both ways on it. And to me, it's still more important.
Oh, totally. I mean, seeing all of the overbred dogs who have been spayed
Should
or
we get on the
neutered
breeders now?
later in life. I mean, we have just seen these dogs go through the worst. And this
Yes.
was something that was, like you said, 100% preventable.
Yes.
And you have to stop thinking about yourself and thinking about your animal.
And that's another thing too. It's like the breeders, you know, there's no regulation. You know, the state medical board and all those kind of groups and animal control, they have enough of trying to deal with what they're dealing with, the massive overpopulation in the shelters right now, let alone regulating breeders. So, you know, the level of what I've seen and the cruelty and the disgust and with so many breeders is beyond. And, you know, whenever my clients say, oh, I'm going to buy a dog. Well, I said, well, why don't you try looking in shelters or rescues? You're going to be able to get a nice purebred rescue animal first. And a lot of them do. They do try. So at least I'll give them that. But, you know, you've got them now bringing these little tiny pocket puppies from Korea, you know, and which is also setting up a whole new bunch of upper respiratory diseases coming into this country. So, I mean, it's just like the multitudes of things that because of these, you know, it's a money-driven industry. I still hate to say that, but it is true. So every time this happens, you know, like we have a movie. Sorry, John Wick, I love your movies, but I'm going to throw at you out there. So Malinois are in the last two movies, 3 and 4, and they are magnificent, I will say, in that film. And the problem is then all of a sudden, oh, cha-ching, breeders start going, yeah, let's start breeding Malinois. These dogs, this is the #1 smartest breed, is the Belgian Malinois. They use them in the military, they use them in police, they use them for drug sniffing, everything. And that's because they're smaller, so they're quick and so smart. They're also very highly prey driven. So people get these great puppies, but without training, they're a nightmare. There is a movie called Dog that was with Channing Tatum that at least they did show that side of how if they're not taken care of, they go cuckoo, and they can be. And so that's the problem again. You get these movies that come out and everybody wants it. They don't do their research, you know, and it's so frustrating. So right now in the shelters, we have so many young Malinois puppies.
Yes, we do.
And it's heartbreaking for me as a Malinois owner, you know, as a Malinois parent. It's devastating. Now, when we rescued her and got her out, she was so sick and so ill. But my husband, Chris, he has worked so hard with her, and our trainer, Robert Cabral, who is a Malinois specialist. And, you know, they walk 5.5 miles 7 days a week for her job. That's her job. She's also going to be a service dog, so she's in training for that. But, you know, it's a job on top of that, you know. And you can see she's very good. And it's paying off the work that they do.
Yes.
She is
So
very good.
beware and be ready for that.
Yes.
You know, another thing breeders don't tell you too, like what's the #1 breed in the country now? French Bulldogs. You know, French Bulldogs, English Bulldogs, you know, Mother Nature has been trying to get rid of that breed for years. You're saying, well, what do you mean by that, Dr. Lisa? Well, most of them are bred by artificial insemination. They can't even reproduce naturally, the vast majority. And because of their broad shoulders, 95% of them have to be delivered by C-section. So what does that tell you? That natural selection is trying to do, but no, money-making humans have to keep it going. And they have the worst freaking allergies. Oh my God.
Yeah.
They have so many health problems. And that's, again, Mother Nature is trying to, you know, do away with that.
Just rewind. Why do they have to do insemination? Like, are they physically unable to
yes,
get
just
the job
because
done?
they're physically unable to get the job done.
Wow.
Exactly. It's a whole big deal. So,
It's so
you
sad.
know, it is very sad, but we're going to keep them going because, you know, the average price, I think, of a Frenchie right now is what, anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000. you know?
Yeah.
And then when they end up broken somehow, they end up in our
As they
shelters.
do a lot.
And there are a
We've
lot,
had-
so many.
We've
right?
had prolapsed rectums. We've had to do surgeries on
Eyeballs.
eyeballs, throats, nostrils.
All of it, all the problems that the Frenchies and the English have.
Yeah, well, now they're breeding them shorter, wider, and flatter.
Yeah, which is terrible. It's such a
terrible.
disservice that we're doing.
Yeah.
Well,
so
all of
sad.
these breeds of dogs, they're being let down by humans.
Uh-huh.
I mean, especially looking at your Malinois, knowing the gift that they bring to this world and how we're letting them down. We're bringing them in and then we're letting them down. It's
Yeah.
just so awful.
Humans are despicable. You know, that's why I do a lot of charitable work, and I work with children and animals. I mean, humans, you're on your own.
adult humans.
Yeah, adult humans. Right, exactly. Because of that, you know, I like to try to help the innocent. So,
As far as the spay and neuter events that
Yes.
you are a part
Yes.
of, what is that, and is that something that we can kind of put out into the universe?
oh, that'd be
to-
wonderful. So my dear friend Jerry Gilliland with Chiquita's Friends, she was a restaurateur. She's from Ireland. She has a very interesting background, and she's had restaurants here, and she's become very successful. And her best restaurant was Lula's Cocina in Santa Monica.
Yep.
And so she felt like Mexico has given her so much, she wanted to give back. So she started doing the rescue, and she would bring dogs up from Mexico, fix them up, and then find them homes. But then she found that trying to get to the initial problem by doing these spay and neuter clinics, and it's all voluntary work. You know, we'll take groups of veterinary professionals, non-veterinary professionals, because hundreds of people will show up, and they'll wait in line from 5 a.m. to try to make sure they can get their pets taken care of. And they want to do it,
So they're
but
not
it's different.
They're not street dogs. They're
Not all of
people's
them.
personal
No,
dogs.
most of them are personal pets.
Oh, wow,
They just
that's
don't have the means
amazing.
to get it done. And Chiquita's Friends and a couple of the other local charities, they'll foot the bill on everything and get them vaccinated and spayed and neutered.
We are part of a coalition here in LA of different rescues that do a clinic once a month down there. And they send us these numbers that they've done. And that's another thing I want to ask you about is just the veterinary, like the quick,
Right.
you know, the skill that you guys have to be able to turn it
They
over.
do. It's insane how
Yeah.
quickly they do this.
Well, we'll get the numbers that in one clinic, they've done 133
oh
animals.
yeah, we'll do about 300 to 400 per clinic,
Amazing.
I mean, the
starting at
impact
like
in a few
7
years
in the
that that
morning
has.
till like 4 at night. And they'll have, and this is literally meatball mash surgery. This isn't like in our hospital, the standard of care, the IV fluids, the nice, intubated with. No, you get your shot, you get knocked out, you're opened up, you're closed up. That's it.
You lay on a blanket until you wake
We
up, and then
use
you go
ironing
home.
boards as tables. We do drapes, and we have to just sterilize quickly with a chlorhexidine solution the instruments. I mean, it's crazy. And the success rate is very, very high, and the mortality rate is very, very low. So it shows what you got to do,
That's right.
Yeah, and spaying, let's say spaying one dog.
76,000 puppies
She knew that number.
in that lifetime. I am a professional. Thank you.
Yes, you are.
And what
So-
about cats?
That one's a little more odd and it's a harder one to track because cats, they can actually go into heat with any kind of stimulation. So they don't have
like
a
on
heat
the
cycle.
cycle.
Yes,
On the
if
spot.
you just pet them where the brow, so yes, they can.
Who knew?
Yes, so they don't just
Scandalous.
necessarily, they can come into heat all the time. So that one's a little
You
more
can't
hard to get the
recalculate
numbers.
how many
I'm
times they
right,
could.
and I think it's going to be a lot more.
Whoa.
So,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
That's pretty
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah, so that's interesting about the cats. And then if we still have time, we'll go pick up some of those street dogs and cats and bring them to the clinic and then re-release them back on the street.
How many years has this been in operation?
I think she's been doing this now for about 4 or 5 years. And there's a wonderful spay and neuter clinic in Simi Valley. Have you heard about
Yes.
them?
In fact, I just called them yesterday.
They are incredible.
We have an opportunity actually one of the networks wants to start sponsoring spay neuter clinics.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
I reached out to them, but if you know of anybody else that I could hit up.
They're the best group that I know of.
Okay.
And they're the ones who are actually going to be volunteering and going to do these Bakersfield. It's either this weekend or next weekend. These two big clinics coming up. So they're a great group. They're very reasonable and they're good at what they do.
Amazing.
You know, we need more of that.
And they have a big truck.
Yes.
Which is like a big, like...
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
But with all of these surgeries that you're doing at the border, have you noticed the impact that it's making in the community yet?
Not yet, but I think we'll get there.
I'm sure you'll get there. I wonder how quickly that happens.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
And we just finished a documentary called Some Dogs Go to Heaven. And it's literally about the experiences of what we've done down in the border towns and what Jerry's done. It's pretty incredible. You know, I can't speak enough to her and opening my eyes and teaching me so much as well. You can teach an old dog new tricks, you know?
Well, I would like to talk about one other thing.
Of course.
Because just as a consumer without the knowledge, pet food.
Oh boy, here we go again.
Yes, and you know,
hackles
the
up.
different recipes and also how those different recipes relate to health issues and cancer.
Okay, well, and not just cancer, there is actually something happening. And it's interesting, you know, most of this is happening on the coastal areas where we have this whole trend of these designer boutique dog foods. And unfortunately, it's come about with whatever humans, whoever started this, oh, well, I can't eat gluten and grain, so my pets shouldn't eat gluten and grain, which is probably one of the biggest disservices and bullshit lies there are. They need grain until proven otherwise. Less than 1% of dogs have grain allergy, okay? That's just the way it is. Less than allergy, or 10% of all dogs have food allergies, so it's mostly environmental. But what happened is about 5 years ago, there was this trend where we were seeing hundreds of golden retrievers coming out with something called dilated cardiomyopathy. And they found that it had to do with the grain and the lack of taurine in the diets, especially the grain. Now, the FDA, unfortunately, came out inconclusive of the whole thing, but every veterinary cardiologist who I talk to still believes it's the grains. And why? Because once they put the dog back on the appropriate diet with grains, guess what? A large percent of them did get better. Unfortunately, so many of the diet, you know, had been so prolonged, they have to be on the food, medications the rest of their lives, and a large population did pass away. So it's so frustrating, you know, that this is still happening. You know, 2/3, if you go into a pet store, 2/3 of these diets are these boutique-y diets, especially with the legumes, the peas and everything. Where do they eat that in nature? I mean, you know.
My dogs hate peas.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
My dog will eat around the peas.
Yeah, mine too.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable.
But so that's an issue. Talk to your veterinarian. Let's get the best, healthiest diet. Read your labels.
And that's another thing I've noticed over the years. Initially, they were so proud to, you know, announce themselves as grain-free.
Oh,
but now,
exclamation points.
yeah, but
bold
now
letters.
it's like in smaller print, kind of at the bottom,
Yeah.
grain-free. And sometimes I've even brought them home and realized
And they need grains, and there's all kinds of great grains. Like I found an amazing brand called Open Farm, and the reason I like it, it has all kinds of different foods for whatever you like to feed. You know, I'm not particularly into raw, but they do have a raw for other reasons. You know, I wouldn't feed her anything I wouldn't eat. Okay, so unless she's eating sashimi every night, I'm not eating that raw diet. Once you take a parasitology class or a bacteriology class,
you're not messing with that
yeah.
anymore.
So, but they have that, and then they have what I like about them. They're ethical. They're certified by the Humane Society. They are sustainable, and every ingredient is traceable. To me, it ticks all my boxes, and that's so important to me.
Yeah.
Do your research, read your labels, talk to your veterinarian about what you're feeding. That's the biggest thing. And with the cancer, it's just like us too. You have the healthiest people in the world. We get cancer. It happens, Mother Nature has to control this somehow, And I think that, but if you feed a better quality diet, you're going to get a better quality life for your pet.
What about allergies?
So the biggest, beef, corn, wheat, and chicken are the big 4 major allergens. But there's so many great ones out there, that you can have that don't contain those.
But how beef and chicken are like the main ingredients in so
but
many
not
of these
remember
dog
only
foods.
but only 10% are allergic to food.
Oh, okay, I understand.
All that 90%,
Yes.
like she's on beef. She has a nice beef. She had the salmon, but she didn't like it.
You didn't like the salmon?
No, it did work on her poop. It got it all normal again once I got her off the chicken.
That's okay.
And then she loves her beef. So
is she allergic to chicken?
I think she has a sensitivity, yeah.
Okay.
With the, not allergic like licky chewing and everything,
right. A
but just sensitivity to it, yeah. So, but she still gets some chicken now and then. Mommy does give her human food. Okay, I admit it.
We got
Guilty.
it on camera.
You have it. I'm sorry. Their lives are short, and if they enjoy having something that we're eating and it's healthy and good, why not?
Right.
I'm not one of those vets who says, no. They teach you that in school, but come on. It's
Dr.
okay.
Lisa says
Dr.
you
Lisa
can.
said
It's okay.
Yeah.
A little bit is okay.
We would love to hear her story.
So my husband and I decided we were ready to start looking to rescue a pup, a young dog. And so it just happened to come, and I love the Malinois, and I always have. Just their look, and they're so smart. And so we started looking for a rescue. And one actually, she just kind of happened to drop into our laps. One of my clients was kind of facilitating her, her adoption. And basically, she was found tied to a fence at a schoolyard in western Nevada in the summer of August of 22. For at least 2 days.
We remember that summer.
For at least 2 days with no food or water. So somebody finally said, this poor thing, And they took her to a vet, and the vet had recommended at that time doing some blood work, but they declined it. She had, you can see this little nubby right here, this knob. She had a femoral fracture, and it already had healed. And so we went to look at her, and they brought her out, and I looked at her, I looked at my husband. Every bone was sticking out in her back. Her ribs were all sticking out, and she had a giant pot belly full of fluid. And I looked at her gums, and they were sheet white. And I said, they said, yeah, she really hasn't been eating very well and doesn't really want to walk. And I said, she's about 2 days from death. So let's take her to Malibu Coast Animal Hospital and let me work her up. And she was in liver failure, and she had 2 tick-borne diseases. So I treated her for those tick-borne diseases. She actually also had a complete fracture at S2, S3 at her tail. So her tail was dead, and she would poop all over it. And she had really severe diarrhea because she was so sick. So my husband and I said, well, we'll foster her, and if she doesn't get along with the cats, then we will find her a home. These are extremely high prey-driven animals. So I did have a talk with her and said, look, if you want to live at our house, you have to love our 6 cats. Yes, we have 6 cats. And so she did, and one of them actually helped her with her healing. And after she was better, it took about a month for her to get better. We got her spayed, and we amputated her tail. And she's great.
That's a healthy girl.
And then the training started, because I needed her to be a good girl. So, and she's an excellent girl. We are so fortunate, but it's all the hard work my husband's done. I can't take the credit,
You can't.
Well,
He's not here.
I can't.
You can, because I saw you bring her up the stairs and walk her in here, and she listened.
Yeah, she does.
Well.
She is very good. And that's what you can get, though. You saw her walk by that other dog, too. Didn't even look.
Not a thing.
When we take her to restaurants, we take her everywhere, she lays down the floor and just watches. She is so well behaved. Anybody can have a dog like that. Just please put the time and the work into them. You can have an exceptionally beautiful companion, friend, love.
You've spoken about the high prey drive, but what are some other behavior characteristics of the Malinois that you've noticed can get out of hand if you're not training them?
Well, I think they could be extremely neurotic and frightened and loud noises and things like that. She still has issues, you know, like we're trying to get her used to loud noises, but she'll, you know, but then she comes back to correcting herself. It's confidence, but that will be with any breed, just like with us, right?
Yeah.
You just need one person to believe in you and love you, and that pretty much goes with people or animals, right?
That's true. I love that.
Yeah.
That's true. I want to hear a little bit how your one kitty helped to nurse her.
Mumford Axel Montgomery Budak.
Wow.
That is my kitty. And he loves everyone and every creature. To be in our home, you have to get along with everybody. So we have a lot of friends. We babysit their dogs, or dogs will come over, and he loves dogs. And when she was so ill, and she was still so sick and frightened, he would go up to her and he would lick her ears and he would rub all over her and kiss her every day, all the time. And I have videos. It makes people cry. It's just so beautiful. And I really think that he did help to give her some calming, because she didn't know us yet. But here's this other animal spirit saying, hey,
They're cool.
they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay. So it was pretty amazing to watch that, you know. It's pretty incredible. So,
And she says,
you know.
I have a family now.
Exactly.
And they love me.
And she's so grateful, and they're just grateful. Doesn't take much, even when the poor dogs and kitties who are abused or neglected, they're just so grateful to get that occasional touch, you know. So
Yeah. You guys do a lot of work with one of our county animal shelters, the Agora Animal
Yes,
Shelter.
we do.
And I just
Yes,
want to
we
say
do.
thank you for that, because whenever I'm there, and Bob Ferber, who's been on our podcast, it's usually him who's doing the schlepping back and forth.
Yes, he's the king schlepper.
He's the king schlepper. But you
What
guys
a name.
do so much of that charitable work.
We're so fortunate. Again, I praises to Dana and Dean to let us do that work. We have several rescue groups that we get to work with, that we can help and offer a discount and do free exams for them. So that's so important to me. I could not be there if I couldn't do that. And also, they let me I do a lot of the homeless animals that we see. Like, we'll see somebody, I'll say, hey, does your dog or cat, do they need vaccines or food or anything? And they don't charge us. They let me do it for free. And
That's
any of us.
amazing.
So that's really important to me as well. I'm actually just I'm pretty excited, going to be launching a new program, if you will, with a friend of mine. We're just in the baby stages, but we're going to be dealing with another population of homeless, and that's the homeless youth. And so many of them have pets. So we are going to be starting monthly clinics for homeless youth and their pets. And I will be going with another of our doctors, Dr. Sheila, and we're going to be doing a clinic every month for these kids.
Amazing.
You know, people say, oh, these poor animals are homeless. No, they'll eat before their owners, number one. Number two, because they're homeless, they're literally with their pet 24/7. So that bond is beautiful and strong. And they are so happy, these dogs and cats. I know it's hard to imagine because the situation just seems so dire, but guess what? Those pets are giving them something to live for. You know, mental health is still one of the biggest reasons for the homelessness, including the youth. So it's very sad, but it gives them something to love and to hold on to.
Of course. Yeah.
So,
we've definitely noticed that in working with the unhoused community.
Yes,
how,
yes.
Like, driving by, you can see, or sometimes when we post on Instagram that we're trying to help this dog, and someone's like, well, get that dog a home. And we're like, this dog has a home. This dog has an owner.
Exactly.
And they're being very well taken care of.
Exactly.
So because of people like you who offer those services, too.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. Just another way I can help
We do a pet pantry type thing. So if you guys find that you need food, supplies, beds for the animals,
oh, wonderful! Yeah.
let us know.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
We'd love to help.
I'm very excited to do that. So yeah,
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
And bringing Lisa with you.
Lisa, did you have fun? Yes. Is this fun? Yes.
She speaks English, I think.
One treat? Can you speak? You still not going to do it, really? Camera shy? Speak.
It's okay.
All right. Yeah, thank you.
Mom's a pushover.
I am. I know. Yes, you're a very good girl.
Do any outreach with children, kind of prepping them for the development of having a dog, kind of going out into communities, talking through, doing that research about your dog, talking through, the right way
That's a good idea.
When they see them on the street, how to just navigate having a pet in their life.
And that is a good idea. And when, I don't really do that kind of outreach, but I think that's a great idea. I do kind of in the rooms, with the children, talking about responsibilities and, your parents have got this pet for you, but this isn't just their responsibility, and that's what I kind of think my legacy too at Malibu is I'm getting these kids who I've known, now they're adults, bringing their pets to me because they did listen and want to do things the right way. So that's really kind of cool, but I think it's a great idea. I'm also on the board of directors for the California Wildlife Center, and we do have an amazing outreach program, a teaching program about wildlife and what you can do to prevent severe interactions with wildlife, and let's keep wildlife wild. And it's pretty amazing. We have now, I think, rescued, I want to say, 25 years. This is our 25th year. And I've been on the board for 22 years. And I actually was one of the first veterinarians when we were having the domoic acid poisoning, with the sea lions, doing the necropsies and sending all the tissue samples because everybody thought they were being poisoned by humans, and it turned out it was actually a natural phenomena.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it was pretty crazy. But now we see, unfortunately, rodenticide toxicities leaching and being transferred from the rodents. It's illegal to use certain types of warfarin toxicities here in this area in California, but people still do it, and it kills our magnificent wildlife, our coyotes, it goes all the way up to the birds of prey, so we are teaching about that. So that is, I think outreach is amazing because what did she used to say? Prevention through education. Mm-hmm. My mom this is all my mom's fault that I do so much. I'm going to blame her. My mom actually started the very first free clinic in the state of California, the Ventura Free Clinic. Wow. And so I, have had that kind of ingrained into me, that to give back. And I think if people, if you don't have the money, if you can just give your time to donate back, it's the most valuable thing we have anyway, right? It's time. So I just think that's why I kind of do so many things is because of my mommy, bless her. And it's a big part of it. So I'm stretched thin a lot, and then I bake to relax.
If you follow Dr. Lisa's Instagram, you're getting animals, but you're also getting her baked creations. Yeah. Oh my gosh, the cupcakes, the cookies, the cakes.
I love to do it, and I do really high-end organic. All my milk and my eggs are all pasture raised, happy animals, the butter, everything, and all from scratch. And it's really, I love doing that and giving. So I give back that way too. Mm-hmm. I donate probably about over 5,000 pieces of baked goods a year as well to all my charities and events.
Wow, so, amazing!
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being
here. You're welcome.
Here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my goodness,